difficult conversations and problems that we haven't been able really to deal.
There's machine has enough horsepower to unload on the go. So yeah, we're running
Figure 1 bushel of wheat would make about 42 loaves of bread. So in ideal conditions, if this machine's running at capacity, in 1 hour it could harvest enough grain to make 214,800 loaves of bread.
Why, just like across the road. This farm is actually different than the rest of the property that you are going to be, or farmland you're going to be on today, because we are not on the Klamath Project. So our water right here is pre-project. It's an 1889 water right. So for the years that the project has been turned off, we've continued to irrigate. So it's a unique property in that, and it's actually part of the reason we moved up here. Our farm primarily grows chipping potatoes, so potatoes that are destined to become potato chips or French fries. And for us, we're contract growers, so most of our customers we've been doing business with 20 to 30 years. And so for our business, it's really important that every year we're able to meet our contract amounts and be able to deliver on time. And so that's why for us, doing things like coming up here to the Running Y or securing ground that had well water was really important. But what you're really here to see the start of this morning before you end up going down into the elevator is combine. So what you have behind us is Lexion combine. Ben's going to talk about the fun details of it. But I'm going to tell you this machine is about 14 years old, and at the time we purchased it, it cost about $550,000. To buy one now of the same size, you're looking over substantially over $1 million. So it just is a reminder how much, when it comes to agriculture, we have kind of I think it's one of the highest entry costs to get into the industry. And it's partly because you not only have your land expense, but you also have your buildings to store your product, but your machinery that actually harvests your product is expensive as well.
Try these other varieties like triticales.
Yes. They're trying to get water sufficient. They're trying to get away from, in case they get their water shut off. The big talk right now is the biological opinion that came out, and everybody's just scared to death right now. We're only going to get, supposedly, according to the growers, 160,000 acre feet next year total, and they're like, we're not even have enough water for the A growers, let alone the B growers and the other one. So, yeah, it's been turmoil.
Jeff.
So
I see your name tag.
So with the 5-year operations plan not looking good for B&C contractors getting water, is what I'm hearing. You said you can't fill your wetland if the neighbor doesn't get their water. So is it looking like we might not see as much of this under that 5-year operations plan?
Yes.
That's honestly why I asked the question too, because it seems like you guys are, through this, providing a lot of habitat and all of that without credit.
Like I mentioned on the bus, this field right here was in organic potatoes last year, and we didn't go out there this spring or last fall and reseed all of those tules out there. We didn't plant edges and try to turn this into what would be a vibrant wetland. All we did was shut the gates and add water, and it responds in that way. And you may say, well, this is like that's a once-off try, but we've done this type of program since the early 2000s, and we continue to have the exact same results. The exact same results of productive vegetation, bird use, and then once we continue to farm it, the same results of productive farming. So we've truly found a tool that can work for both species and for agriculture, yet I think what's really important is if we were standing on this dike 2 years ago, you wouldn't hear anything. Like those noises that we could hear, that life that we could hear, it's totally quiet. And the reason is because there was not a single drop of water out here. When we would be standing on this dike, this lake was totally dry. Totally dry. This field was totally dry. There was not a single thing growing in this field. It was basically dry, fallow land. So no grain feed, no wetland, no nothing. I think that's a really important point that we would like to hammer home, is that we have tools that are available to us out here. We have a tool that we've continued to show is repeatable, productive, sustainable, yet we continue to have the same problem of not enough water to make it happen. And that is a common theme that we've been pounding on the table for the last 20 years. Into the technical, there is technical things in the interim operating plan, but generally speaking, lower water allocations to the project will result in less opportunity for wetland out here for sure. And again, like if you think about where we came from and how water flows, this was the bottom of the basin, this was the bottom of the pool, and so as water cascades down through the system and moves through the system, moves over somebody's field, through a ditch, into a drain, back up in a pump, across another ditch, into a drain, back over another pump, it could end up in this wetland. When the spigot is shut off on the top end, there isn't that cascading effect. And so trying to straight line water down to a wetland here, or straight line out to a field here, does not produce the same result as what we're able to do by letting that system flow through, retain, and reuse. It's a great point. So yeah, I mean, it's going to have a dramatic effect.
Hard to capture, but it's really what ties this whole basin together. We had several years with zero allocation, 2020, 2021, essentially zero allocation for the Klamath Project. If you went into Malin, the hardware stores was closed, the cafe was closing earlier, the supply lines, all those little industries that help keep these operations going, they didn't have any business. It's those other industries that we reach. We have a community here that supports the ag industry, and reciprocally, the ag industry supports them. So welders, electricians, all sorts of different contractors, from carpenters to those specialized plumbers and specialized electronics. Those are all industries that we really rely upon here. We reach out to Klamath Falls, we reach out to other surrounding communities to bring those folks in. But it's truly a community economy. When you go to other places, or if you look here in, we used to have a big logging industry in the Klamath Basin. We used to have all these industries, trucking businesses, machine shops, chainsaw repair shop, all these industries that supported the fact that there was a timber industry. We still have timber, we still have logging here in the basin, but not at a level that can support those ancillary industries. So we don't have those other services like we used to here, as well as those jobs. When we talk about how ag feeds the basin, how the Klamath Project supports the basin, it's those ancillary industries in addition to farming. We have about 2,000 farmers on the project now. And those, in total, the total economic value of the Klamath Project is right around $500 million for the community, the local economy.
I think that affects things you don't even think about. Those 2,000 farmers have how many kids that need school teachers. So you might not even be thinking of school teachers being connected.
Exactly. I mean, you got waste management, you got the civic power, you got everything that goes on. But you were talking about everybody relies on that, but if you look back in the days, like Mike he could tell you about his forefathers here. You know, there was every farm family had 100 acres. Well, now you got every farm family probably has 500 acres or 1,000 acres. So you have less farmers here actually farming. To the lake and see what it used to be back in the day. If you look back in the photos of having auto dealerships, tractor dealerships, those are all gone now. And you have a handful, 2,000 growers on the whole project rather than 10,000 growers.
The Klamath Project used to have, the Oregon side, they had the statistic, had the highest rate of small family farmers in any area in Oregon. It's still pretty close, but as noted, we've lost a lot of farmers. We've been, now 25 years later, roughly 3 decades later, been in this essentially, to some degree, a perpetual crisis for that period. With real questions about water availability and our ability to continue farming. Scott White from KDD talked a little bit about the restoration work. What we're seeing now is we're seeing a transition where farmers are saying, okay, this is the new reality. How are we going to make this work? Districts as well, too, saying, okay, we've pursued these various court cases, this litigation, haven't been successful. How are we going to figure out how to make this system work in light of these restrictions that are imposed upon us? So essentially, we're 3 decades into a crisis and a perpetual, decline to some extent in our number of farmers and our farming operations. So we're really at a turning point now and saying, okay, how are we going to make this work? And a lot of questions still remain about moving forward, the new biological opinion, and how we're going to potentially even dealing with even further restrictions in our water. Thank you, Glenn. I think this is a really neat spot.
Yeah, something I want to add too while everybody's here, because I don't know who all everybody is here, but something I see too growing up in the ag. A lot of people say, well, the farmers aren't going to grow because they don't have water. They're getting all these insurance and subsidies. That's not what farmers are about. I talk to a lot of farmers and they say, we don't want the money. We want a farm. And if you live in Portland or San Francisco, wherever it might be, you get people hooked on welfare. What are they going to do? They're going to stay on welfare. Yep. They're going to get used to that. And these farmers are the same way. We're seeing it in the basin. They're all getting this government money, whether it's insurance or NRCS or whatever it is. But you're hooking them on the government, and pretty soon those guys won't be able to make it without it. That's sad. They're losing their independence. I mean, the farmers, the loggers, the ranchers, they're some of the last independent people we got. They're gonna lose. They're getting them hooked on this program. And it's sad to see, because now when they look around, they're like, oh, well, they're farming for insurance now. They're making decisions off of. They're saying, I'm going to put wheat in because that's where I make the most money on the programs. I mean, that's changing things. And there's a lot of them that say no. I know a handful of guys that won't take the programs, and they're struggling. They're hurting. Where the rest of them are buying new machines, and they're doing really well. But but you're taking their independence. I mean, it's really sad to see what they're doing, what this is doing. The government influence on these guys. They think they're helping, but they're not. I mean, if you just give them their water, and or not even that, just let them farm. Do what they want to do. Keep that independence. I think it's a good thing.